Welcome to the Woke Conservative Podcast, where we are woke to the social injustices and rampant racism of the left. I'm your host, Woke Conservative, and this is the Constitution Series, Part 5, a series where we take an in-depth examination of the Constitution from start to finish. If you have not listened to the previous parts of the series, I recommend you do that first. I'll put the link down below so you can check them out. Before we get started, feel free to hit the like button and share the podcast with friends. Article 1, Section 7. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Basically, this first paragraph states that the House is the only one who may introduce a bill that's purpose is to raise or spend money. The Senate may give counsel and ultimately pass the bill if it comes to them. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it, with his objections to that house in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of the House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in all such cases and votes of both Houses shall be determined by yea and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of which each House respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. So this paragraph gives us our first real insight as to how a bill becomes a law. It has to start in the House of Representatives. It has to be passed there, moved on to the Senate. And if it's passed in the Senate as well, then it goes to the President. Here the President has a few options. He can sign it into law, he can veto it, or if he does nothing for 10 days, but not including Sundays, then the bill shall become a law, as though he signed it. The exception to this is if Congress is adjourned on the last days of the bill, preventing it from being able to be returned, then the bill does not become a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. So the last paragraph of Section 7, the President and Congress, a kind of cautionary tale. Both have the power to veto each other, so it's best to work together instead of against each other. And on a final note, before we move on to the next section, we now see checks and balances start to come into effect. The Senate can check the House, the President can check the Senate, and together both House and Senate can check the President. Article 1, Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. So, in the opening paragraph, we see exactly what Congress is going to be allowed to do constitutionally: taxes, tariffs, pay debt, defense, and welfare. And any federal law must be enacted uniformly throughout all of the states. So that's a really important part there. Federal law, California can't say, oh, okay, well, take this part out and add another part. Same thing. So it makes it that federal laws affect everybody in the country equally. It also lays out that Congress has the power to collect taxes, and Amendment 16 gives Congress the power to collect income tax as well. So we'll see these two, Article 1, Section 8 in Amendment 16, working together. And the members of the first Congress did not think it was clear enough what powers the state had, so they ratified that in the 10th Amendment, which goes over state powers. To borrow money on credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes, to establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and a foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writing and discoveries, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. This one right here just says that they can set up the lower court in the land. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. I love this part. I love pirates. But though piracy only exists on such a small scale in modern times, at the time of writing this, piracy was very real, and it could be piracy from Europe or the Barbary pirates, and they were very dangerous and very real for that time. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. The letters of marque and reprisal is for hiring of private citizens during wartime, and mainly had to do with privateers or corsairs, which were private people who own their own ships, and they would act in such a role as to capture enemy ships. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. To provide and maintain a navy. To make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. To provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So this part's really interesting to me, because what we see in this part of Article 1, Section 8 has a great deal to do with the Second Amendment, which states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, as I'm sure you're aware, that the Second Amendment has been under fire for years from the Democrats. And the big argument falls between the fact that the left argues that we have no need for a militia anymore, so the Second Amendment is void. The people don't need guns. Now, on the right side, they argue that militia or not, the Second Amendment still states the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I have to agree with the right side on this one. It clearly states that our right to own guns shall not be infringed. It doesn't say under any sort of circumstances they can be infringed. It just clearly states they cannot. So that is a pretty much blanket umbrella statement to me that covers any kind of attack on the Second Amendment. Now, also, another interesting part about Section 8 is what happened to the militia. The three options I see is we lost the need for them, so they disbanded for good. 2, they are now the police force. Or 3, they have turned into the modern day National Guard. What do you think? You have an idea that I missed? Let me know in a comment. Also, not to mention the simple fact that the taking away of guns from the people is a step towards totalitarianism. So the fight for our Second Amendment is not just about owning guns, but it is also about upholding the Constitution and our democracy. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. To make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. The end paragraph states that the government may make any law to accomplish their list of duties that are here in Article 1, Section 8. Now, also, it needs to be noted that the federal government, come the 20th century, has taken some control from the states in regards to manufacturing or distribution because it crosses state lines so often. But to contrast this, the Supreme Court in later years has been siding with the state as far as power is concerned. That concludes the Constitution for today. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to leave a like, comment, and share the podcast. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.